Welcome to the chaotic universe of the Valiant. Get ready as cosmic lasers rip through the darkness, the sonic wave shreds enemy shields, and alarms blare through the endless silence of the Orion Arm. In just a few moments, Captain Hart will give the order, "Fire," leading the entire fleet in a desperate battle for the survival of a civilization. Don't look away, the battle for Aelora is about to begin. The light of millions of stars flickered against the pitch-black void of space, crafting a scene both magnificent and utterly cold. The Earth warship Valiant, its polished metal hull gleaming, drifted like a silent specter along the outer edge of the Orion system. This was a realm where life barely existed, only drifting gas clouds and desolate worlds. Every motion of the ship carried a weight of unease, a pregnant silence, thick with tension. Though no sound echoed through the corridors, everyone knew that even the smallest mistake could spell disaster. Captain Elena Harther, short brown hair, framing eyes as sharp as cut crystal, stood before the bridge viewport, gazing into the infinite dark. She had spent the bulk of her career in space and seemed cultivated to its solitude. Loneliness did not frighten her. What unnerved her was the sense of being forgotten, left behind. Before her, the main display charted their trajectory through the void. A blinking line assured her the Valiant held its course, yet Elena sensed something Amazon indistinct, nagging feeling. She turned to study her crew. Each officer worked in silence, faces impassive, voices unused. They all understood the nature of this missiona routine, patrolland in space. Routine meant absolute quiet. "Status report," Elena said, her voice calm but resolute. Lieutenant Mason Lee, communications and analysis officer, glanced up from his console, where cosmic readings scrolled across the screen. "All systems normal, Captain. We're holding at the outer boundary of Orion Arm patrol. Scanners detect nothing beyond the usual background noise." Elena nodded, never taking her eyes off the display. "Very well, but double-check all comm channels. An unexpected transmission can originate from anywhere." She turned back to the endless void ahead, a vast, unbroken expanse. It felt as though something was lurking just beyond their sensors. Suddenly, an alarm chimed. A cluster of warning lights flashed on the control panel. Lieutenant Raj Patel, the communications officer, punched in commands. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal on an unknown frequency. It's not within any of our standard channels. Patch it through," Elena ordered without hesitation. Despite the routine nature of the patrol, her instincts refused to rest. As the Valiant pressed onward through the deep shadows of space, Elena strode down to the comms bay where Patel worked. The officer, keen-eyed and quick, was already frowning at his readouts. "Captain," he said, "this signal doesn't match any known protocol." Elena peered at the screen. "Might it be from the Galactic Council?" The Council, a coalition of multiple species, tightly regulated interstellar communications and had officially quarantined humanity's signals, deeming us too unpredictable. Patel shook his head. "No, ma'am. It doesn't align with any council patterns." A vague dread settled over Elena. In a region this vast, countless dangers lurked beyond sight, and Valiant stood as humanity's lone sentinel. She turned to Patel. "Keep analyzing. Update me at once." As she returned to the bridge, Mason Lee's voice crackled over the lab intercom. "Captain, I've got something." Heart pounding, Elena descended to the lab, weaving through dimly lit corridors. Inside, Lee was hunched over his console. He pointed to a decoded fragment. "It's a distress call," he said, tension threading his voice. "Not our language, but there are echoes of council database patterns." Elena joined him, eyes fixed on the translation. Lee continued, "This transmission originates from a species called the Elethri. Their planet, Aelora, lies 7 light-years from here. This," he tapped the screen, "is their official plea for help." A jolt shot through Elena's chest. An alien civilization in crisis. Humanity had never intervened directly in extraterrestrial conflicts, but this could be their chance to step out of isolation, to answer a call no one else would heed. "Aelora," she whispered, tasting the name. She knew this decision would be monumental, yet something inside her surged. Perhaps this time, humanity would not stand by. Once more, she looked out at the stars, but they no longer felt indifferent. They were a signala portent, that the boundaries drawn across this galaxy might soon shift. As the Valiant continued its journey through the vastness of space, an oppressive feeling swept over the entire crew. Each member worked in silence, but deep within, something was changing. The strange signal still dominated Captain Aelora Hart's thoughts. She knew that every passing second could be a second lost, and in the vastness of space, even the briefest hesitation could lead to disaster. In the lab, Mason Lee remained absorbed in the signal. Patterns of light danced across the screen, reflecting his ongoing analysis and hypotheses. Aelora entered, her sharp eyes following every movement Lee made. He typed in quick commands, his face tense, constantly checking the control board. "Captain, I've decoded part of the signal," Lee reported, his voice tinged with both excitement and concern. "While their language is unlike anything we've encountered, there are patterns that resemble some of the records in the Galactic Council's database." Aelora stepped closer to the screen, her gaze intense, as if each word Lee spoke could alter the fate of the entire crew. "What have you found?" she asked. "This doesn't match any standard message we've decoded," Lee continued, typing more commands. "But I've managed to translate part of it." He pointed at the screen. "The message comes from a species called the Elethri, who live on a planet named Aelora. They're asking for help, not from the Council, but from us." Aelora furrowed her brow, unable to believe what she had just heard. The Galactic Council, a vast organization consisting of over 200 species, had refused to intervene in humanity's affairs for centuries. Now, an alien species was placing their hopes on Earth, a species the galaxy had feared. It was shocking, but also an opportunity that couldn't be ignored. "What do we know about the Elethri?" Aelora asked, her hand resting lightly on the control panel. "Although there's little information on them, I found a few records in the Council's database," Lee replied. "They're a peaceful species that primarily inhabits Aelora, a water-based world. However, they're currently facing an invasion from a species called the Ravager Collective." "Ravager Collective?" Aelora repeated, her voice filled with skepticism. "I've never heard of this species." "That's right, Captain," Lee answered. "They're known as ruthless invaders, a species that harvests planets by exterminating all life to extract resources. And now, they've arrived on Aelora, draining the planet's oceans." Aelora felt a chill run down her spine. An invasion by the Ravager Collective, and they were pushing the Elethri to the brink of extinction. She couldn't allow these innocent beings to perish while they couldn't defend themselves. A question formed in her mind. Was this humanity's chance to prove its worth? Or was this a trap set by the galaxy? Lee continued. "They've been sending distress signals for weeks, but the Council has not responded. In fact, it seems they've abandoned the Elethri, considering them too weak to be involved in galactic affairs. But the Elethri knew they needed our help, and they reached out to us, not to the Council, but to us." A moment of silence passed as Aelora absorbed Lee's words. She had been taught that humanity was not to interfere in interstellar conflicts. But over the years, she had come to realize that sometimes those very rules condemned good species to die quietly. And now was the time for humanity to rewrite its own history. "All right," Aelora spoke, her voice firm. "Prepare a full report and send it to Earth Command. We need to make a decision about whether to intervene." Lee couldn't contain his excitement, nodding enthusiastically before diving back into his work. Meanwhile, Aelora looked out the bridge window, where the vast, mysterious, and dangerous expanse of space loomed. She felt a deep unease, but also an overwhelming sense of pride. Humanity, the species the galaxy had labeled too dangerous, was about to have a chance to change the fate of another civilization. An hour later, Aelora stood before the full-screen display, where Admiral Maria Fletcher, the senior commander of Earth's Defense Force, appeared. Her silver hair was tightly pulled back, and her uniform was impeccable, even in the late hours. The dim blue light from the projector cast a powerful and resolute silhouette of her. "Captain Hart," Admiral Fletcher's voice was steady. "I understand you've received a signal from an alien species. I need a full report on the situation." Aelora met her gaze with resolve, not a trace of hesitation. "Admiral, the signal comes from a species called the Elethri. They live on the planet Aelora and are facing an invasion from the Ravager Collective. They are calling for our help, not the Council's, and they're waiting for assistance from humanity." Fletcher was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her tone was graver than ever. "The Ravagers are dangerous invaders. They've wiped out countless civilizations across the galaxy. But our intervention could lead the Council to view us as aggressors. They've isolated us for centuries because of the fear they have of us." Elena felt a fire ignite within her. This was the moment for humanity to show what it was truly capable of. "Admiral," she replied, "I understand the risks. But sometimes we must do what's right, even when we're not allowed. If we don't act, the Elethri will be destroyed. And we can't just stand by and watch." Admiral Fletcher remained silent for a moment before responding. "I will take this matter to the President, but I already know the answer, Captain. Prepare the fleet. We'll move out." Elena looked at the screen, her heart filled with determination. Humanity would not stand by while an innocent civilization was wiped out. And now, it was humanity who would be the Elethri's last hope. As the Valiant continued its journey toward Aelora, the vastness of space began to shift. Gone was the quiet expanse of the void. Now, tension rippled through every movement of the fleet. On the bridge, Captain Elena Hart and her crew could not escape the growing unrest. They knew that a decision was looming gone that could change the entire course of humanity's history, at least in its relationship with other species in the galaxy. When the distress signal from the Elethri was confirmed, things began to unfold at breakneck speed. Admiral Maria Fletcher had decided to escalate the issue to the President, and now, the decision to intervene or not hung heavy in the air. Over 6 hours later, Elena stood in the conference room of Earth Command, surrounded by senior officers, political advisors, and military commanders. On the 3D screen, images of fleet commanders preparing their forces filled the space, all focused on a tactical map of the Aelora system. Each officer stared at the reports from Elena, understanding that the final decision would impact them all. Entering the room, Admiral Fletcher looked directly at Captain Hart, her face grim. "We have the President's approval to act, Captain," she said, her voice soft but filled with authority. "However, we must consider the long-term consequences. Intervening in the Elethri conflict could lead the Council to misinterpret our actions and view us as invaders. This would put us at odds not only with the Ravagers but with the species of the Council as well." A heavy sigh came from Colonel William Stroud, the President's military advisor. He was a man with vast combat experience, always viewing matters through the lens of strategy and practicality. "Admiral, what you say is true, but we cannot stand by and watch them be wiped out. The Elethri may not be the strongest species, but they are a peaceful civilization, and they don't deserve to die because of the Council's indifference." Ambassador Lauren, a Venturi alien and member of the Galactic Council, sat silently in the corner, listening to the debate. His icy blue eyes were sharp, his face impassive. "The reality is," he spoke after a moment, "if humanity intervenes in the Elethri's war, not only will the Council question your violation of interstellar treaties, but all civilizations will wonder about your true intentions. Once you cross this line, there's no going back." Elena didn't flinch. "Lauren, I understand your concerns, but you abandoned the Elethri for over a week. They called for help and none of you did anything. That's not how we solve problems. We can set a new precedent, a new path for humanity." The room fell silent. The air was thick, as if every word spoken could change the fate of an entire world. Finally, Admiral Fletcher spoke again, her voice lower. "Humanity has never been a leader in this galaxy. We've been isolated because of our own recklessness. And if we enter this war, we won't just be fighting for the Elethri, we will be fighting for our place in the galactic community." Elena looked at the Admiral, determination in her eyes. "We can do things differently, Admiral. This is our chance to prove that humanity is not something the galaxy fears. We can be protectors, not destroyers." A series of glances were exchanged between the members of the conference. Some looked worried, others skeptical, but all understood that this decision would not be easy. Colonel Stroud stood up, his eyes filled with respect for Elena. "If we decide to act, I will stand with you, Captain. But I need to know we're ready for any scenario. The Ravagers are not an easy enemy. They are unlike anything we've encountered before. Admiral Fletcher turned back to look at everyone in the room, then turned her gaze to Aelora. So, what is your decision, Captain? Are we ready to do what the Council cannot? Aelora felt the weight of the question. She wasn't just making a decision for the Elethri. She was making it for all of humanity. She closed her eyes, letting the fragmented thoughts in her mind fall into place, allowing the clarity of a wise decision to illuminate her heart. When she opened her eyes, her path was clear. We will act, Aelora declared, her voice firm. The Elethri have called for help, and humanity will not turn its back on those in need. We will go to Aelora and protect them. Whether we face the Council or not, we will do what compassion demands. A moment of silence hung in the air, but soon, applause echoed from Colonel Stroud. The others stood, offering their support. All right, Admiral Fletcher said, her face hardening but also acknowledging the decision. Prepare the fleet. Valiant will lead the charge. Do what needs to be done. Aelora felt a new strength surge within her. She knew that this battle wouldn't be easy, but humanity was ready. She turned to give orders to her crew, preparing them for the perilous journey ahead, a mission that would become a defining moment in history. Set course, she commanded. Aelora is waiting for us. And so, the Valiant departed Earth's orbit, heading toward a war that the galaxy would never forget. With the decision made, the Valiant sped through the dark expanse of space, heading toward Aelora, the planet facing destruction at the hands of the Ravager Collective. Each ship in Earth's fleet was positioned, ready for the dangerous mission ahead. The 8th Atomic Fleet, consisting of 12 warships, including the massive and powerful Sovereign, was preparing for an unprecedented assault. This journey was set to alter not only the fate of the Elethri, but also the future of humanity's place in the galactic community. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Aelora Hart stood firm, her sharp eyes locked on the screen. She could feel the space around her swirling with tension, a palpable anxiety spreading through the entire ship. No one spoke, but everyone understood the gravity of this mission. They all knew that if they failed, a peaceful civilization would be wiped out, and this battle might not end with just the Ravagers. Beside Aelora, Lieutenant Mason Lee was busy handling communication signals. He tirelessly scanned the channels, ensuring there were no interruptions, especially as they were about to leave the protection of Earth. Captain, all communication channels with the fleet have been set, Lee reported, his voice focused. Everything is ready. Aelora nodded. She turned away, her eyes falling on the vast expanse of space displayed on the main screen. Part of her felt the loneliness of staring into this endless void. But she also felt a rising power within herself, the strength of the decision she had made. Humanity had been isolated for too long. This was their chance to prove they were not a species cast out at the edge of the universe, but a species capable of protecting the vulnerable. It's time, Aelora said, her voice tightening. Engage FTL. Let's go. With a twist of the helm, the ship surged forward, the FTL drive activating, and the space around them blurred into streaks of light as they sped through the chaotic fabric of space. Everything around them quickly disappeared in a strange cosmic wave. Valiant entered faster than light travel, racing toward Aelora and the planet on the brink of destruction. Below deck, Chief Engineer Maya Santos and Dr. Arjun Patel were double-checking the weapon systems and defensive measures. Over the past few hours, they had been ensuring every system was running at optimal efficiency, especially the sound-based weapons they had specially developed to deal with the Ravagers. These war machines weren't easy to defeat, and they needed everything to be perfect. Are we almost there? Maya asked, adjusting the readouts on the control panel. 4 hours remaining, Arjun replied, his eyes glued to the ship's trajectory. At our current speed, we'll reach the destination on time. Maya nodded, though she couldn't shake her worries. The alien forces they were about to face were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. And this battle was not just a military confrontation. It was a test of ethics and politics. Aelora could be the place where Earth's future in the galaxy was decided. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Captain Aelora Hart felt an unfamiliar unease. She was accustomed to battles, to making tough decisions, but this time, everything felt different. She wasn't just fighting for the survival of an alien species. She was fighting for humanity's future in the galactic community. Could they coexist peacefully, or would they forever remain the outcasts in the galaxy's shadows? Suddenly, an emergency signal blared through the ship's communication system. Lieutenant Ray Miller, the ship's language specialist, hurried to the bridge. "Captain, I just received a message from the Elethri. There's been a shift in the situation. The Ravager ships are moving faster, and it looks like they've detected us." Elena was not surprised. "Understood," she said, her voice steely. "Increase speed and notify the fleet to prepare. We won't let them strike first." The space around the ship rippled as Valiant accelerated. Elena could feel her heartbeat quicken in her chest, but she refused to let herself waver. This was the moment when everything would be tested. Facing the Ravagers, with forces unlike anything they had ever encountered, would be a battle that Earth would never forget. As Valiant left the familiar boundaries of its home system, it headed toward a world that many species had never imagined needing to protect. Earth, the species that the galaxy had feared and cast out, was about to become the only hope for Aelora, and Captain Elena Hart, commander of the Valiant, was ready to lead humanity out of the shadows. As the Valiant and the Earth fleet neared the Aelora system, the atmosphere aboard the ship grew increasingly tense. The surrounding space was no longer just the vast silence of the universe, but a promise of an inevitable battle. The Ravager ship's infamous invader shad quickly detected their presence, and the fight for Elethri's survival was drawing near. Captain Elena Hart stood on the bridge, her hand firmly resting on the control panel. Before her, the 3D display showed the Aelora system, with 3 massive Ravager ships floating around the water planet. Each ship, with its dark hull and tough metallic exterior, was a symbol of brutality and destruction. "We've arrived," Elena whispered, her eyes sharp as knives, locked on the Ravager ships preparing to launch their next assault on the dying planet. One glance was enough for her to recognize. The Ravagers were no easy enemy, and they didn't just attack, they annihilate everything in their path. "Prepare for combat," Elena commanded, her voice resolute. "Open communication channels with all ships in the fleet. Get ready for the assault." Maya Santos, the ship's engineer, stood next to the control panel, her fingers flying across the buttons to ready all weapon systems and defensive equipment. "All systems ready, Captain," she reported, her eyes bright with focus. At the same time, Lieutenant Ray Miller, the ship's linguist, was connected with the Elethri, keeping communication open through their signal. "Captain," he called over the comms, "I just received a new message from the Elethri. They report that Ravager ships have started moving deeper into Aelora's oceans. The water levels are dropping rapidly. Their ships are draining the oceans." Elena felt her heart tighten. These alien invaders could devastate the Elethri's planet before they even had a chance to intervene. "We need to act now," she ordered, gesturing toward the commanding officers. "Our fleet won't just protect the Elethri, we'll protect ourselves," Elena continued. "Make sure everyone understands that this battle is not just about a far-off planet. This is Earth's battle." The Sovereign, the largest warship in Earth's fleet, was ready. Equipped with the most powerful weaponry, the ship would serve as a mobile fortress, protecting the smaller ships in the fleet. "Sovereign, report status," Elena called over the comms. Admiral Kate Wilson's voice echoed through the 3D display. "All our ships are ready. Fighters will be launched at your command. We've double-checked all weapons and shields. Everything is operational." Elena nodded. "We won't let them attack first. Focus all fire on the first Ravager ship. Don't let them retreat." Maya checked the system readouts again. All ships are ready to fire. However, we need to be aware of an important factor. The Ravager ships have extremely strong energy shields, capable of withstanding most conventional attacks. Dr. Arjun Patel, standing next to Maya, added, "We've prepared a special weapon. The Soundwave Disruptor system will help breach their shields. However, its effectiveness won't last long. If we don't destroy them quickly, they'll recover and become more dangerous." Elena listened carefully to everything they said, the tension in her chest growing. This was the decisive battle, not only for the Elethri but for humanity's future in the galaxy. They could not stand by and watch a peaceful civilization be destroyed. They couldn't allow these invaders to keep ravaging everything on the planet. She turned back to the officers. "We attack immediately. The fleet will approach from 3 directions, split into 3 groups. We will strike fast, strike hard, and we won't give the enemy a chance to counterattack." Maya nodded, and along with the other technical officers, she began preparing the warships for the attack order. The pilots of the Valiant and Sovereign were also ready, awaiting the final command. "Prepare for FTL assault," Aelora ordered. "We won't give them the chance to strike first." Outside the bridge window, the stars began to fade as the Valiant turned back, heading toward the 3 Ravager ships preparing to conduct their final harvest. The surrounding space grew silent, as if everything was waiting for the decisive moment. The order was given, and Earth's fleet moved into formation. Fighters were launched from the warships, like predatory birds heading toward their targets. The inevitable battle had begun. Aelora exhaled deeply, reminding herself that this wasn't just a battle for the Elethri, it was for all of humanity. Other species might see them as invaders, but they would not let the Ravagers attack a peaceful civilization without paying a price. The space above the planet Aelora was no longer the endless silence it once was. The light from distant stars was slowly replaced by powerful beams emanating from the Earth fleet's warships. The final battle had begun, and every ship, every pilot, was fighting not just for the survival of the Elethri, but for the honor and future of humanity in the galactic community. Captain Aelora Hart stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the 3D display showing the battlefield. Before her, 3 Ravager ships loomed large, each one like a mobile fortress, equipped with powerful weapons capable of destroying anything they wished. The surface of Aelora was rapidly receding, the waves disappearing under the Ravagers' attack, and the flashes of light from the battles illuminated the space, painting a chaotic yet hopeful picture. "Our battle formation is in position, Captain," Lieutenant Patel reported. "All fighters are ready to attack." Aelora took a deep breath and nodded. "Initiate the attack. All ships, fire at the first Ravager ship. Don't let them retaliate." In space, the battle erupted in a series of explosive blasts as Earth's warships charged into the fray. Blinding laser beams shot from the weapons of the Sovereign and Valiant, cutting through the dark void and lighting up the night. Earth's pilots, trained to fight under extreme pressure on a planet with crushing gravity, immediately employed unpredictable tactics. Earth's fighters moved swiftly, dodging the laser beams fired by the Ravagers, and attacked with speed and precision that the invading ships couldn't match. On the Ravager ships, chaos slowly descended as their vessels were hit. The Ravagers attempted to retaliate, firing powerful energy beams into the Earth fleet. But, as before, their rigid movement became a fatal weakness. Earth's pilots, forged in the harshest conditions on Earth, knew how to handle the unpredictable invaders. "We're doing it," Colonel Stroud, the tactical commander, reported over the comms. "The Ravager ships are being pushed back, but they're still strong. If we don't destroy them right away, they'll regroup and counterattack." "Continue attacking," Aelora ordered, her voice steady. "There's no time to hesitate. Our fleet must destroy the first Ravager ship before they can recover." On the Valiant, the technical officers and weapons systems specialists prepared for the next attack. Maya Santos and Dr. Arjun Patel stood together, watching the combat signals. "We need to use the sound disruptor now," Maya said, her gaze fixed on the control panel. "We can't let them recover. The sound wave system is ready." "This could paralyze their entire ship's neural systems," Arjun confirmed, smiling with confidence. "But its effect won't last long. We need to act fast." Aelora didn't hesitate. "Activate the sound disruptor, now." A sound like a crashing wave reverberated in space as the sound wave disruptor was engaged. 3 powerful frequency waves pierced through space, colliding with the Ravager ship's energy shields, causing them to shake violently. The Ravager ships began to lose control, and their pilots showed signs of paralysis, unable to maintain stability. "We're doing it," Lieutenant Ray Miller, the linguist, reported over the comms. Their systems are malfunctioning. This is our chance to destroy the first Ravager ship. Engage direct assault, Aelora ordered, her voice firm. All ships, focus fire on the lead Ravager ship. Push them into their orbit. Earth's weaponry slammed into the Ravager ship like a tidal wave, shattering their shields and causing the ship to begin exploding. Each hit sent large chunks of metal flying, revealing the damaged interiors. The Ravager ship's energy systems couldn't hold, and a series of powerful explosions finally engulfed the ship in darkness. At that moment, the remaining Ravager ships could no longer endure and began to retreat, but it was too late. Earth's ships had surrounded them, leaving no escape. "They've fallen," Colonel Stroud reported over the comms. "The first Ravager ship is destroyed. We've won." But Aelora couldn't feel joy in that moment. She knew that in space, every victory was only temporary. The Ravagers were still out there, and the Aelora still needed their help. She turned back to the screen displaying the ongoing battle, Earth's pilots continuing to fight relentlessly, and the Sovereign moving into position to defend the remaining Ravager ship. "Continue attacking," Aelora said, her voice cold. "We won't let them have a chance to escape." The great battle was far from over, but for the Aelora and all of humanity, this was a crucial victory. Earth had shown the galaxy that they were not the enemy everyone had feared. And now, they were the unexpected protectors of a dying civilization. When the battle ended, the space around Aelora grew quiet, but not with the peace of tranquility. It was an oppressive silence, like the universe itself sighing as it witnessed all that humanity had wrought. The Earth fleet, after a bloody war, had proven they could protect a peaceful civilization when all others turned away. Yet victory was not the end, but the beginning of far greater changes. On the deck of the Valiant, Captain Hart stood watching the display of Aelora, where the ocean's waves were slowly returning, but the scars of invasion still hung in the sky. The Ravager warships lay destroyed, yet the Aelora still faced a challenging future. They had lost much of their population, and many of their cities lay in ruin. Nevertheless, they had survived, and now they had to rebuild. The Valiant's shuttle landed on a stretch of land near the shore, where a team of Aelora scientists was working to restore their water filtration systems. The Lumari, who had boarded the ship days earlier along with Earth's relief teams, were assisting with Aelora evacuations and stabilizing the hardest-hit areas. "We did it," Lieutenant Miller said, standing beside Aelora as they watched the engineers at work. "We saved millions of lives." Aelora nodded, but bitterness tugged at her heart. Though the victory was clear, the price had been too high. She gazed toward the horizon, where the outline of a city began to rise from the ocean. The Aelora had survived, but could they recover as swiftly as humanity had after its own bloody wars? "We can keep helping them," Aelora said softly but with resolve. "This is only the first step. We can't stop here. What we've done is protect a threatened civilization, and it might be the first step toward forging a new alliance." Within days, the picture became clearer. Shuttles continued ferrying remaining Aelora to relief stations and transport ships. Aelora and her team prepared to return to Earth, but she knew this mission would not truly end until a new future was charted on full of challenges for humanity itself. Aboard the Sovereign, Admiral Wilson gazed out at the rescue vessels continuing their work. "We did the right thing," she said, "but will the galaxy see us as more than the invaders they always feared?" "We can't change what they think overnight," Aelora replied, entering the control room. "But we can change what they see when they look at humanity. We've shown them one thing above our compassion." A thoughtful silence fell over the room. They all understood that, though the Ravagers were defeated and the Aelora saved, this conflict was only the beginning. Humanity's future in the galactic community would hinge on the next decisions and, above all, on how they would protect the vulnerable wherever they were found. The next day, an important summit convened among representatives of Earth, the Aelora, and other species, including the Tari. A minor council member who had been isolated for centuries and now chose to join an alliance with humanity. Ambassador Lauren, the Venturi founder of the Galactic Council, opposed to Earth's involvement, was also present. The Council and other civilizations alike bore witness to a profound transformation in humanity. A new path was unfolding, one defined not by confrontation, but by cooperation and mutual defense. Aboard the Sovereign, Elena sat across from Elder Tor of the Elethri and Captain Van of the Tari, opening the summit with a crucial proposal: a mutual protection alliance. Elder Tor, his skin glowing a pale green, radiated light as he spoke. "We cannot forget what Earth has done for us. Together, we will rebuild what was lost. We will help the Elethri rebuild their shattered cities," Elena declared, her voice strong with conviction. "But understand this: humanity is not merely aiding you. We are setting a new precedent, and we stand ready to join that change," Captain Van of the Tari added. "The galaxy can no longer look down on humanity." Days later, once the final discussions concluded, Earth's shuttles departed the Aelora system. But this time, they did not leave as mere victors of a conflict. They departed with pride, having saved a civilization, and more importantly, having proven they were not the outcasts the galaxy believed. They showed the galaxy that humanity could be its unexpected guardians. From Aelora, the light of hope shone across the vast universe, where those once seen as invaders had become protectors. Earth, with all its pain and war, had become a symbol of change in a galaxy awaiting its defenders. And with every step forward, humanity knew it was not just part of this universe, but shaping its destiny. Thank you for following this story to the very end. If you found it inspiring and engaging, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos. I deeply appreciate your feedback. Leave your comments below, and I will read every one to help improve our content and bring you the best experience possible. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.